The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Phoenix, Arizona, job number 28920. Please utilize this job number when referencing your vehicle with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's start at the front bumper of your apparatus. Underneath the front bumper are two open-ended tow hooks. There are two mounted air horns. In the center, there's two electronic sirens. In the bumper, there is an access door to access the large diameter intake. In the very top, there is a top compartment for hose storage, and on the outer edges, turn arrows and your light cluster inside. There are two emergency lights just above that, and moving toward the top, there is a floodlight at the very top in the center. There is a full spread light bar. There are two independently operated spotlights. Also across the top, there are 5 running lights. Looking at the cross section of your front bumper, this is to access the large diameter suction. This is the section on the top which accesses hose in the front bumper. There is an access point here on the passenger side. This accesses the cab tilt. To access the cab tip, please refer to the danger and warning labels before operation. This is the lock release button. Select the lower or raise for your cab, and then activate the switch by holding it up. Also on both right and left side, there are emergency lights in the front bumper. There is also a mid-cab emergency light, and then a 180 emergency light located in the center. At the very top, there are also spread across the side are emergency lights. This is the access for your shore power. Also note the warning labels for the mechanical steps. Looking at the top once again, this is your emergency light on the side. And at the very top, once again, the independently operated electronic spotlights. Take note of the warning labels located on the sides of the doors. Please read these and make yourself familiar. In addition, with on the right lower section of the warning and hazard labels. Looking at for information Pierce placard. This is located in the driver's section. A close look at this indicates the January 2016 date of manufacture. There is also where you reference the job number. In addition with this is information on the apparatus for gross vehicle weight, tires, rims, and cold tire inflation. And in addition, at the very bottom are the fluid capacities and types of fluid required for this vehicle. Located underneath the driver's seat are the controls for the seat. This is the battery switch on, which is a quarter turn in red. Also looking at your pump shift. There is an engaged pump shift and OK to pump shift light indicators. On the very bottom, underneath that section, there are a variety of audible alarms, which was just pointed out there. And at the very bottom is the command zone. There is also engine and transmission diagnostic ports and SRS transmission diagnostic ports, in addition with switches to activate each of those diagnostic ports. It's a generalized picture from above as the driver operator seat. Looking at the left-hand side of the driver operator, there is the ignition switch. There is the momentary start push switch. Just above that is the panel dim rocker switch. And moving to the other side is the headlight and driving light switch. Looking up above are the requirements for height, length, and gross vehicle weight rating. Starting with the gauge on the left-hand side, moving all the way across, starting with the oil, your DEF level, fuel status, front air, rear air, water temperature, RPMs or tachometer, speedometer, and volts. Moving across is information center that displays information regarding your apparatus. Moving down to the lower section is your load manager. You can see there are various blank switches also. Those are for future switches if you choose to. This is the high idle OK switch and the high idle indicator. Across the right hand side is the climate control, the Thelma indicator, SRS fault or airbag indicator, cab door locks, mirror heat, vehicle data recorder. This is your regen switch and your DFP regen inhibit switch. Looking at the right hand side, this is your parking system. This is the maxi brake. This is your Allison transmission pad, and you have a note that says pump and drive. Looking above the driver operator's head, there are a variety of different switches. To break these switches down, this is the emergency master. Once again, you have a significant amount of future possible switches locations and also your electronic siren. Moving to the right of that are the perimeter lights, the cab rear scene lights. Just to the rear of the cab are the driver's side telescopic lights, and on the opposite is the passenger side telescopic light. Moving to the next switch panel down, this is the front flood, driver's side flood, passenger side flood, and the last switch is the rear scene. Moving just to the right of that, this is your individual operator spotlight with an on switch with a light indicator and control knob. The center mounted red flashing light indicates for a compartment door open, and this is your control for your PA and your siren. Generalized view of the cab on the right hand side with the command information center. Just above that you have push red and push white lights, the main mirror control for both right and left mirror controls, as generalized picture looking back to the back seats. Overhead, you have climate control for the rear passengers. To the right-hand side is an access panel. In that access panel is where you would access your oil check and your transmission check for fluid levels. Generalized side view of the apparatus. Starting with the pump panel, down at the lower section of the pump panel is the Watrous information placard. There is also the Pierce pump manufacturer placard for pump test pressures. Warning labels throughout this area. Please familiarize yourself with those. Moving to the very top, this is the master intake for the pump. Moving to the right is the master discharge gauge for the pump. Just below that are the test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. And just moving to the right of that, various switches. The very top one is your pump engaged indicator. Moving from that side is the driver's side floodlight
driver's side telescopic light, passenger side floodlight, rear scene light, rear spare, and the reel rewind. Just moving to the right of that, you have a variety of discharge valves. They are color-coded. For example, the white crosslay for water and foam is yellow, which coincides with the discharge port. You have number 2, a 2.5-inch crosslay, and at the very top, the reel discharge. Moving across from that, this is your TFT monitor operator station, which controls your deck gun. At the very top of this is the Pierce throttle control, which also has a water level indicator. Moving to the right is your foam A tank level indicator. And at the very bottom of this is your foam master controller. And at the very top is the front discharge. On the lower section of this pump panel, there are wheel turn valves, which open large diameter discharge ports. Moving to the right-hand side at the very top is an audible speaker. This is your primer for your front intake. This is the closed open indicator for the front intake. And to the right of that is the hot pump light indicator. There are also additional discharge ports from this location, from the driver's side 2.5-inch pre-connect to the passenger side 2.5-inch pre-connect. This is the engine cooler, quarter turn. Once again, large diameter with a wheel, discharge port. And tank fill and recirculating line. Below that is the primer for your main fire pump. And to the right of that is the tank to pump valve. Also on the right hand side is the water indicator. Pump drain. Moving down is an access door. And to the right hand side is your foam inlet, and inside that is a foam strainer. Looking at the left-hand side of the pump panel, this is your air supply valve. Just beneath that is the air supply for in or out on the air chuck. And on the right-hand side is the Waterous information placard, which tells you the type of pump you have. And from this section below are the mainly drains. This is the primer and the master valve drains. In addition, with all valves, which are color-coded, and this is just a small lift up to drain. This is your foam pump intake drain and the foam discharge drain. Generalized to the side of the vehicle, we'll get a more in-depth look at each of these compartments as we move to the next set of slides. Just to the front of the tire are the bottle storage location. There are 2 available bottle storages here. To the left-hand side is the master breaker panel for 110 power from Shore Power. Once again, bottle storage. This is a 12-volt DC termination blocks. On the lower section, this is your low sulfur diesel fuel, and when the is pulled down, you'll see in the blue section, which is your DEF fuel. Looking at the rear of the apparatus, you have 2 of the 180 emergency lights. You have a variety of different grab-handled. You have left and right turn arrows and a cluster with the rest of your right and turn and brake and reverse. At the very top is a third brake light, and just above that was the rear camera. You have 2 sections for ladder storage, both on the right and left. As we look inside those compartments on the next few slides, we'll have a more detailed look at those ladder locations. You have 2 backboard storage, an additional ladder storage, and long tool storage. On the right-hand side, you have extension ladder and a roof ladder. These are the 2 light switches for your hose bed and rear light scene. This is the rear compartment roll-up where you have an adjustable shelf. Looking also on the right-hand side of the apparatus, there is also compartments. We'll get a more closer look in those also. You have adjustable shelves in the very rear compartment. Once again, the 12-volt block at the very top for access points, and there's also one of those in the middle compartment. It's also location of your tick. Once again, bottle storage on the right-hand side of the vehicle, and an additional diesel fuel cap. To the front of the vehicle, you have 2 additional bottle storage locations. This is the access for your thermal imaging camera. Once again, adjustable shelving, and the very top of that is your 110 shore power. Inside that also holds your battery charger. You have cross-lay storage. Looking at the passenger side pump panel, you have a large diameter intake, a large diameter discharge. There are 3 2.5-inch discharge ports. There is an 1.5 inch intake port, and there are various drains that are color coded once again on the lower right hand section. This is behind an access door. This is the direct tank fill. This is where your water strainer is located behind the access door. And you also have 2 additional drain ports in the front and rear of the apparatus of the tires. Generalized top view. This is your main water fill from the top. This is your Class A foam tank, vented. This is your hydraulic oil fill. An additional warning level on the passenger side. Please take note of the warning and caution labels. Your apparatus is also equipped with SRS, a speedometer on the left-hand side. Moving to the right of that is the independent controlled light source for the spot on the top of the front. You have a heavy-duty weather band radio CD player. This is indicating your SRS for supplemental restraint system. Please make sure you note the warning label and do not block this area. You also have a 12-volt access here. There is an air horn and an electric siren access point. You have overhead speakers for your stereo system. This is the open compartment door light. Congratulations, Phoenix, job number 28920. If you have any questions, please contact your sales representative at Hughes Fire Equipment.